Hi guys, what is going on? Welcome to another video. Hope you're all doing well today. So in this video I'm going to be telling you just a complete guide on gathering. I don't gather much. I have had to, obviously, just as like everyone on release. So I've kind of learned a little bit. I've been speaking to some people who have already hit things like T7 gathering already, how they've done it, what they've been doing. So yeah, let's get into it, shall we? So, first of all, the first thing to know about gathering is the zones that you can go to. Obviously, you have the swamp, highlands, desert, snow, and forest. Each one has a primary resource, and that is the resource that is most commonly found in that area. And then you have two secondary resources, which share about equal sort of commonness in the zone. It's always more efficient to go to the... Let me correct that. It's almost always more efficient to go to the zone with that having the primary resource. The problem is sometimes that resource is just heavily farmed there, because obviously every one of that gatherer goes there. So sometimes it's actually better to go to another one, especially if you're gathering two resources, just because you probably don't want like as much competition. It's just about like right now I'm in a swamp gathering cloth. Swamp actually has cloth as its primary resource. I'm not leaving here because I'm in black zone, and like I've got maybe 2 or 3 people competing with me, so like I'm really safe to just go around all day long. I've already gathered 4k cloth today. I'm just leveling so quick with it. So yeah, so just to talk through the zones then, you have swamp, which is cloth primary and wood leather as the secondary resources. Highlands is stone. To show you on the royal map, actually, we've got effectively swamp is cloth, cloth as primary, wood and leather as secondary. Highlands, which is down here, is stone primary, wood ore as secondary. The desert here, which is leather, ore and cloth, the secondaries. The forest, which is wood, leather and stone as the secondaries, and then we have the snow, which is ore with cloth and stone as secondaries. In the zones that the resource is primary, you also have mobs that spawn. These mobs, typically, unless you're the leather, obviously leather has mobs in a lot of zones, you can just kill whatever. So leather's a bit more of a bit of a different gathering experience. But in terms of... God damn it. In terms of... sorry, the actual mobs, typically in gathering gear it's going to be pretty difficult to kill, pretty inefficient to kill. It's better just to take the nodes. We're going to brush on that a little bit later though, because there are other things that will actually... You can use them mobs in a specific interaction to basically power level. But yeah, so you've got all the zones. Typically, like I said before, it's better to go to the zone that you're farming in, just because... the zone that the resource is primary, just because obviously it has a lot more of that resource. You're watching me on screen now. I've farmed 61, 64 cloth since starting this, and I've only literally just hit tier 4 today, just farming so quickly. Obviously I am in black zones, so there's very little competition for me at the moment. So talking about what to farm, most people go, okay, so I can now, like, I've got a T4 tool, I can now gather T5. Well, T5 must be the most efficient then, right? That's not actually true. If we look now, it's a bit hard to see, but if you count the scythe swipes as to how long it takes me to do a tier 4, it's like 6-ish. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish. A tier 5 at the moment is 16. So, to put that in context, you get 2 swipes on a tier 4 as you do for 1 tier 5. And obviously the tier 5 then gives only 22 fame, whereas these ones give a base 15. Obviously you're seeing I'm getting 30 there. That's the gatherer bonus. Because I've got the gatherer set on, I've got a pie on, and I'm just starting to get masteries. You can also get, again, I got another one there. You can get gather bonuses, which means that you actually get increased fame on top. So it's always more efficient to farm the tool you're on. So a tier 4, it's better for me to farm tier 4 than it is to farm tier 5. Doesn't mean I'm not going to like get a tier 5 if I see it. I might still do it, but for pure efficiency, tier 4 is the best. Now, let's talk about the node, like the zones. Obviously, I'm in a tier 3 zone here in the black zone, so it's a bit difficult. We'll go to Royals first. We've got a T4 zone here. In a T4 zone in Royals, it goes from 2 to 4. In a tier 5 zone, it's 3 to 5. Tier 6 is obviously 4 to 6. Typically, you want to go to a zone above the tier you want to farm. So if I wanted to farm T4, I would go to a T5 zone because there's lots of T4 and some T5. If I wanted to farm T6, I would actually go to a T7 zone because there's so much T6 and not so much T7. And this is literally the best way to get the amount, like the maximum amount of the nodes that you're looking for in a zone. Another thing to think of when you're farming is try to be knowledgeable on like the high density spawns on a map. So as you can see here, this lighter area on the small map, this is all like water areas in the swamp. Cloth spawns by the water areas, so it spawns around in the darker areas as well, but it's a lot like more spread out. Whereas as you can see, I'm literally running around here, and we started gathering when I started this video, and I'm already 160, got some 4.1, and again I have 1 mastery in cloth. There we go. Sorry, 2 mastery. I've got nothing at all, so it really is just efficient. Just to look for, like, you get it in deserts as well. Deserts, cloth spawns by water. Leather typically spawns, like you can get some clusters that just spawn continuous spawns of animals that are really good to farm. Rocks typically spawn in like big groups by rock formations. Everything has its own little niche things. As you gather more, you'll start to see patterns in it. But this is stuff that to be really knowledgeable on, because you can maximize where you're looking then for resources. Talking about caves then. So as most people know, there's tier 3, 5 and 7 mobs that obviously give appropriate resource for their tier in obviously the correct zones for every resource. These also spawn in caves. So as you can see, there's a cave here between Stillpool Mound and Logjam Fen. In this cave, there is T5 mobs, T5 cloth mobs. Now, what I was actually getting done, or what we've actually been doing for someone else who's T5 tool, is we've been going in there killing every single mob, and he's been going around and gathering all of it. He hasn't got to kill anything. We're doing all that for him. We're getting a decent amount of fame. It's not the best fame farm at all, but we were in our own little group. We didn't invite him to the group. He waited 2 minutes, and then after that he just stayed behind us, 1 mob behind us, and kept up farming. And he was getting so much fame per hour in gathering, it's ridiculous, because he didn't have to wait for nodes. We did a big circle, came back, and by the time we got to the start again, we were getting like 2 out of 4 or 2 out of 6 nodes, or like 4 out of 6 nodes. We were getting big nodes. And it was just a continuous farm, and we did that for an hour, stopped, came back an hour later, and it was all back up, full nodes again. To talk about the nodes really quickly, as you can see, most of these nodes that I'm gathering at the moment are 4 out of 6 nodes. That's because I've actually done this route earlier. When a node respawns, it respawns at 2, or it respawns at like 1 tick, 1 gather, and then it regenerates the other 2 over time, or the other ticks over time. So again, this is 2 out of 6. I've only just gathered this, it's respawned, I've gathered it again. That will respawn as a 2 out of 6, and if I left it for 20 minutes, I would come back to it and it'd be a 6 out of 6. So if you've got a little route down, it's probably best that you do it, run round, and then sort of come back in like 20 minutes later or something when things have respawned, and you'll get the maximum amount of resources. Talking about point 1, point 2, point 3, nodes can cycle through them, which means if you see a point 1 node, don't leave it. It can actually go up or down. I did it earlier, I was farming a point 1 node, and it actually swapped down to a flat 4 node while I was farming it. It's unfortunate, but it happens, but it also can go up. And that's how they respawn and sort of recycle. So just because you've seen a flat 4 node somewhere doesn't mean that later on it's not going to be a 4-3 node. So yeah, talking about Black Zone. So Black Zone starts at tier 4 resources. There's no tier 3, no tier 2 in Black Zone at all. although it does have typically a lot less competition. So as you can see, I've had one other person, two other people I've seen so far, and I don't think any of them were cloth gatherers. I'm able to just walk around this map at the moment, free as I like. I've got a territory here, so if you hold a territory, definitely be in black zone if you're leveling gathering, and just knock yourselves out. You can go for hours and hours at a time. Again, I've brought my I had 5 pies earlier. I actually took a break halfway through, but I'm now going to go for the duration of these 3 pies. I'll go for an hour and a half, bank every time I get to 99%, so I'm not overburdened, because overburdened in black zone's a really bad idea, and come back out and we're ready to go again. So another thing to talk about then is mounts. Obviously mounts are a real sort of hard choice sometimes for what you're going to do, because most people want to take an ox, they want to just go out full an ox, come back and be happy, but obviously oxes are easy to gank. Typically as you get sort of tier 4, tier 5 resources, you're going to be in at least a yellow zone. So talking about mounts, stags are one of the best mounts possible in game for farming. The tier 6 mounts, tier 6 stags I don't think are in yet. However, the tier 4 stags have faster move speed than the horse, I believe. Let's just confirm that after I beat this snake in the face. So to compare this, 95% gallop speed and 465 kg. And I'd say it's slightly less hit points. However, it's more speed and more weight carry. So typically, as long as you're not being ganked too much, it's still tankier than things like a donkey. It's still quite tanky. You're going to be able to get away from a lot of things still with it, and it's more efficient taking that out with you. Obviously, they're harder to get. They are a rare amount, so a little bit harder to sustain. But if you can get one, very, very efficient to farm on. I'm farming on a horse at the moment because I just haven't got one, and again, it's still fairly efficient. I'm on over 300 resources right now with a gatherer's backpack, and I'm at 40%. I'm going to be able to go well into 700. Again, this is the other disadvantage to farming tier 5 or like a higher tier than your tool, is your gatherer's gear, including the backpack, only benefits the tier you're on. So again, this tier 4 backpack only affects tier 4 fiber or lower. So it's quite important if you're going for an efficient thing. If you need tier 5 resources, or the tier you can gather but isn't efficient to, still go and do it. You're still going to get fame for it. But ultimately, for efficient, if your goal is just to go out there and level, then go do your own resources. Again, you saw that then. I got 90 fame then from a tier 4.2 node because I got gatherer bonus as well. It's just so efficient to farm tier 4. I've gathered well over 1,000, in fact 1.5k fame since we started recording, and that's in like 12-13 minutes. It's so efficient. Lastly, one more point I'd like to make, and this is kind of how most people have managed to power level their gathering, or maybe not most people, but like top guilds managed to power level their gathering. Guardians have 2,560 resources in one node guaranteed. Once you kill them, you get that amount of resources. Gathered at 10 at a time, I believe, or 50 at a time. You gather them really quick, you get a lot of fame. And what was actually happening is that guilds were killing a guardian and then protecting one gatherer as he gathers the entire guardian. Again, while I said earlier that wasn't efficient, when you're gathering that much, it's super efficient, and they gathered all of the guardian themselves, and that's a tremendous amount of fame. I couldn't give you numbers on it, but that's a ridiculous amount of fame. And when you go and do maybe 3 guardians, all of a sudden you're getting just like people were able to power level themselves to T6 gathering in a couple of hours just because of guardians. It's so efficient and so good. If you can get a guardian, it doesn't matter at your, as long as you've got a tier 5 tool, I would say 100% take the opportunity to go and get it. Otherwise, guys, thank you for watching. If there's any other questions you've got about gathering, please let me know. Please leave them in the comments below. If you liked this video, if you found it helpful, please leave a like. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching, and catch you later. Goodbye.